First of all, I want to congratulate Alabama Huntsville. What a great game that they played. We strategically wanted to play against their type of system. Princeton offense, pass and cut, move, not a lot of pick and rolls. A lot of times when we evaluating this exhibition game over the last 2 years, we wanted to play a little bit more of an experienced team, a well-coached team that can shoot the three, because we didn't do a good job of defending the three last year, and we didn't do a good job of defending it tonight. So I'm really proud of the effort that our guys showed, especially in the second half. But again, I would just want to congratulate Alabama Huntsville for coming out and just playing some great basketball, passing the ball, cutting and moving and diving on the floor. And we were a little bit step behind in the first half, but we kind of kicked it in gear late in the game. So again, congratulations to Alabama Huntsville and Coach Lenny Acuff. Like I said, 500 plus wins. It's been in the school over 20 years. I hope I'm at Alabama 20 years. We'll talk to Greg about that maybe later. But in terms of, I know you guys are anxiously wanting to hear something about Colin. The NCAA informed us late this afternoon that he has not had his eligibility reinstated by the NCAA. We don't have any other further information at this time, but we will continue to cooperate with the NCAA. We've been proactive throughout this whole process and, work toward a resolution that results in Colin's timely reinstatement. We were a little disappointed, obviously. That's just a normal feeling, and you could see it probably in our guys' eyes a little bit early in the game and throughout the first half. But the right decision was to err on the side of caution, especially for tonight's exhibition game.
Thank you, Coach. Start here with Alex on the right.
Just two questions to clarify. So if Colin needs to be reinstated, does that has the NCAA suspended or taken away his eligibility?
No, nothing like that. Thursday when I met with you guys, we were basically dealing with the information that we had at that time. Today we received some different information, and we've addressed it and talked to the NCAA about it, and hopefully we'll have a quick resolution.
So are they investigating him at all?
No.
Any involvement? Okay.
Hopefully we'll have a quick resolution.
Let's go back left.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, how is Colin handling it? He's a guy that came in here, obviously, once he got on the court. Just how did you break it to him, and how did he react?
Well, we talked about it before the game, and he's handled this whole process in a first-class manner. You're talking about a kid that has straight A's, okay? He gets upset when he makes a below 90 grade on the test. So he's a straight A student. Herb Jones is a straight A student. So they take pride in what they do in the classroom, in the community. And obviously he was a little bit disappointed, but he said, okay, Coach, I'll go back to my dorm and get some clothes, and I'll get on the bench and cheer on the guys. And that's what type of kid he is, because he's a kid of strong character.
Front row, Drew.
Coach, a couple of questions for you. First, what do you think you learned about your team when they came out and it was 14-1 and they were able to respond, and then the adjustments you made in the second half?
Well, the main thing is I wasn't really trying to hold their hand early in the game. I'm trying to get our team to talk more to each other, so I wasn't going to call a timeout. Wasn't going to bail them out. It's not a regular season game. We got a bunch of young kids. You saw at one time we had 2, 3, 4 freshmen on the court at one time. And that's some of the growing pains of us having a bunch of young kids. But we're not making any excuses. We know we have 8 freshmen and sophomores, and a couple of our really good players that have lots of deep NCAA experience and played a lot of games for us. They're injured. And, Braxton Key, unfortunately, has a meniscus injury that's going to require surgery on tomorrow. So we'll know more about his time frame, how long he's going to be out after surgery. Riley Norris, who's been week to week, he's on the mend. He'll hopefully be back for practice sometime next week, and same with Armand Davis. So, we're fighting through a couple of situations right now. This is not life is not always a perfect world, but I like the way our guys responded, especially in the second half. We got the ball to Daniel, no excuses. We had a great talk at halftime, and I talked to him about, hey, you're playing against a really good offensive team.
And then last question for you. Talk about Herb Jones. I thought on the defensive end of the floor, his length really bothered UAH.
Yeah, Herb did some switchings for us. He moved around and guarded a lot of different players on their team. Obviously, you know, they got hot on us in the first half, and it was basically a one-man band. And Ward's a good player. But we had Herb guarded him. Daniel Giddings played some monster defense for us in the second half. So you saw what a force he can be for us inside. So, but Herb is a kid that we think is skilled, but he's still a young player. This is only his third or fourth game if you count Canada.
Go left side, Mark.
You touched on Daniel a little bit, but what was he for you in the second half on both ends of the floor?
Yeah, you know, Daniel gives us the ability to play a lot of different ways. Obviously, he has that post-up game. You know, has a pretty good 12-foot shot. You know, he can switch a little bit on smaller guys and keep them in front. He can protect the basket. He can rebound. So you know, he gives us a lot of different. He has a lot of different strengths that helps us on the court. You can play him with Dante. You can play him with Reese. You can play him in the middle when we're small. So he gives us a lot of flexibility. And we're hoping once we get healthy and we can bring it all together when we're playing, you know, regular season non-conference games and on into the conference, you'll see what the really true depth that we have at every position.
In the back left side, Matt.
I was just wondering what you thought of John Petty's performance tonight. Did you like his aggressiveness on the offensive end?
Yeah, I thought he was aggressive. I just think as a whole, our team needs to just make the simple pass. You know, sometimes we love to be, you know, kind of that Harlem Globetrotters team, and I'm trying to break that in practice so we won't have it carry over into the game. But I thought Petty made some big shots for us, got fouled on a three-point shot. Obviously, he's playing against his hometown team and knows a lot of those kids, and you know, very well represented by his family tonight. But he's another kid that's going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on.
Going back over to Alex, and we'll do another couple questions.
You spoke last year about kind of looking for those alphas in the middle, you know, and guys that are going to take over the game. Do you think you have that guy in Daniel, a guy that, like I said, in the second half really took things on himself a little bit?
Yeah, I think Daniel can be that guy. You know, Dante is still a guy that we thought started to trend upwards, especially in the SEC tournament last year. And we just need to see more of it. But, you know, he was out of position a little bit trying to play against some smaller guys. But we think between Daniel and Dante and the young fella, you know, Giddings, Galen Smith, he has a nice post game inside that you haven't seen yet. He made some great moves for us in our last game that we can't talk about, per NCAA rules with the scrimmage. But we like having that kind of three-headed monster of those three big guys inside. And we also can play a lineup with Alex Reese at 5, or we can play more of a stretch 5.
2 more questions. We'll go to Caleb and we'll go to Cecil in the back.
Obviously, turnovers last year was a big issue, and down the stretch you took care of the ball, but still 17 turnovers. And a lot of those were, like last year you mentioned, going to the baseline and jumping. I know that was a problem for y'all last year. How are y'all going to fix that? Because it seemed like a lot of those were, again, on the baseline.
I think I mentioned this to you guys last year. You know, my college coach that passed away in March, he had a really simple philosophy. Pass the ball to the man that you see is open. Just that simple. Just pass the ball to the open man. We have to do a better job of that. You know, we don't need to be like a college quarterback trying to throw guys open. Just pass the ball to the open man, especially when they get 2 on the ball and we're playing 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 on the backside. And we'll work on it. Again, our guys are very coachable. We're going to break down this film and we'll show them all of those different situations and they'll respond and they'll be better at it on Friday.
Cecil with the last question.
Coach, without getting into specifics, obviously you scrimmaged with Colin, you've been practicing with Colin. Did it take you a little bit by surprise over the last 24, 48 hours that things developed the way they did?
Well, it wasn't 24 hours, it's in the last 8 hours. But my point is, that's a big adjustment for us. He's kind of been in the lineup since day one. We like, bringing other guys off the bench. So when we had to basically lose Braxton and also Colin within the last 24, 48 hours in terms of Braxton injury more than Colin's situation, yeah, it's a little bit of an adjustment. But the great thing I love, if you look at, I know you guys, you probably get bored of talking about football, right? But if you look at our football team, we have a lot of depth at every position. And we've been able to survive because of that depth. And we've had some unfortunate injuries, and I'm praying for a lot of those guys that have either had surgery and out for the season. But the main thing is, it's the next man up. And we feel we're getting there. That if a guy is injured, if Braxton is injured and Riley's in the lineup in the next week or two, Riley can do the job. If something goes on with Daniel, whether it's an injury or maybe like foul trouble, then the next man is up. So we feel we have quality depth. In the second half, I moved AJ to the bench, and then we went a little bit bigger. That gave us a little bit different presence defensively. We were bigger, stronger, faster. Then we brought him off the bench, and he gave us a little spark there from in certain points of the game. So we think we have quality depth. We have 11, 12 guys that we feel comfortable putting in the game at any time.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.